What is up, Algebra 1 students? This is lesson 72, and it's also including lesson 83, but really 83 is just a few special cases of lesson 72, so it's really all together. We're just going to do them all at once. And our objective is simply, how do you factor trinomials? And today we're talking about the ones with leading coefficient of 1, and that's just simply where this like x squared term has a 1 in front of it, not like a 2 or 3 or some other number. There's a little bit easier and work with the other ones later. So really what we're doing is we're doing the opposite of a FOIL. So just to explore what happens, what we're going to be doing is we are given this, and we're trying to get this. Well, let's just look at what happens whenever we do these. So I just use the same numbers, but notice I change signs. So this one has plus plus, this one has minus minus, this is plus minus, and a minus plus. Well, so let's see just kind of how these turn out. Whenever you FOIL this, you get this, which combines to give you this. So notice, when both my signs are positive, both my signs come out to be positive. Here, if they're both negative, notice this last term still comes out to be positive because it's that negative 2 times a negative 3, kind of like 2 times 3. So that last term comes out to be positive. However, the middle term comes out to be negative. Whenever you have different signs, one's positive and one's negative, that last term comes out to be negative. And depending on which one's bigger, that middle term either comes out to be negative or positive. So it's kind of similar. So notice that this comes over here. So if you have a plus plus, you know it's going to factor into a plus plus. If you have a minus plus, minus plus, you know it's going to factor into a minus minus. And if you have a plus minus or a minus minus, meaning if that last one's negative, it could be this way or it could be this way. You just kind of figure it out, but you know that your signs are going to be different. So the last sign is a positive, you're going to have the same sign, and the other one tells you what it is. If the last one's negative, then you know you have different signs, and you're going to have to figure out a little bit. So let's see if we can try this sum. First of all, the main thing I want to tell you is that you got to write something down. If you start with something, you can maybe get something else. So if nothing else, when you come to something like this, you go, okay, I have a trinomial, I'm trying to factor this, so I know it's going to be the opposite of FOIL, so somehow, some way, I'm going to do this. And then the next step would be to look at that previous thing, you put that in your notes, and you said, okay, this last sign is a positive, which means I know these are going to both be the same sign. And since this one's negative, I know both those signs are going to be negative. Okay? So far, you've got something, right? Now let's try to take it one step further. I know this first one's going to have to multiply by itself to get n squared. So that means this first term is going to be an n and an n. Or if you have, on the next one, like number 2, you're going to have a p and a p. And then this last part is where it gets a little bit more tricky, but I think you can still figure it out. Because what you have to do is you have to find factors of this number that will add up to this number. Now notice, 5 is the prime number, so the only factors, remember factors are numbers that multiply together to give you that number. The only factors of 5 is 1 and 5. So that means I'm going to put 1 and 5. And there I've just factored it. Now, if you want to make sure that you got it right, just FOIL and see if you get back to the original problem. If you do, then you did it right and you can get 100%. So make sure you check these if you want 100% on your homework. It's up to you. Alright, number 2. And yes, your homework is a worksheet and I am doing some of them. So write something down. There you go. I wrote my double set of parentheses. I know my first term is going to be a p and a p. My last sign is a negative, which means one of them has to be positive, one of them has to be negative. So I'm just going to go and write in positive, negative. And I pretty much always just write it in that order. I say plus, minus, and then I got to figure out my other numbers. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this last number here, and I'm going to find factors of that number. So I know 1 and 10 multiply to give me 10. I know 2 and 5, and 3 doesn't multiply by anything to give me 10, and neither does 4. So that's all my possibilities. So since this last one is a negative sign, I'm going to try to subtract these and see if I get that. So 1 minus 10 gives me negative 9. Not that. 10 minus 1 gives me 9. Not that. What about 2 minus 5? 2 minus 5 is negative 3. Not that, but 5 minus 2 gives me positive 3. So that means what I want to do is I want to write the 5 in the positive spot and the 2 in the negative spot, because whenever I FOIL, and we'll go ahead and FOIL that out, first is going to give me p squared minus 2p plus 5p minus 10. So notice whenever I combine those together, it gives me that 3p, so it checks out just like I wanted. If I had switched it, it would have ended up with a negative 3p. Like if I had said plus 2 minus 5, it would have ended up with a negative 3p, so I just would have had to switch those to get it the way I needed it. Alright, number 3, notice these are both positive signs. So since that last one is a positive, I know both of them are going to be this, so they're both going to be a positive. I can go ahead and fill in my A's and my A's. And I need to find factors of 15 that add up to 8. So 1 and 15. 2 doesn't. 3 times 5. 4 doesn't. And that's all the different possibilities. So 1 plus 15 is 16. Nope. 15 plus 1 is 16. Nope. But 5 plus 3. So I'll say 3 and 5. Since they're both the same sign, it doesn't matter which place I put them in. So that's right. As we look at your answers, if you have a plus 5 times a plus 3, this and this mean the exact same thing. So don't freak out as you're grading it tomorrow and you're like, oh no, I switched the order. It's okay. Deep breath. It'll be fine. All right. So one more here. Notice the last one is negative, so I know I'm going to have one positive and one negative. I can go ahead and fill in my n's there. Now I need to find factors of 35 that subtract to give me 2. So I've got 1 and 35. 2, no. 3, no. I know 5 is 5 times 7, and hey, that works, because if I subtract those, I can get to 2. So I'm going to want the 7 over here and the 5 here. Why? Because this is negative. So I'm going to want the bigger number to have the negative sign, because negative 7 plus 5 gives me that negative 2. Again, you can FOIL that to check it, but that's just how it's going to work out. So good job. Alright, now this is where we're working with a few special cases, and these will work out just exactly the same. Don't freak out. Let's try one. Here we go. So let's write this. I have a B and a B, same sign, they're both negatives. Factors of 9 that add up to 6, so it's going to be 3 and 3. Now notice, since I have B minus 3 and B minus 3, those are exactly the same. So I can write it a little bit shorter. So it's going to be B minus 3 squared. So it's just a little bit shorter way to write that one. Now this one, we're used to looking at 3 different ones. But in this case, I only have 2. But something to notice, to take note on, is that these are difference of squares. There's an x squared, and 25 is also a perfect square, and they're subtracting. So if you wanted to, think about it as this. You could write this as x squared plus 0x minus 25, and we can still use the same rules that we just did before. This is going to be x and x. Last one's a minus, so I'm going to have a plus and a minus. And I need factors of 25 that subtract to give me 0. So it's going to be 5 and 5. So notice on this one that these two are exactly the same, x plus 5, x minus 5, except for the sign. So, and notice also that 5 is the square root of this, and x is the square root of that. And that's actually going to always work out for perfect, or for a difference of squares. So if I want to factor this next one, I could write it like this. I just want to think about the square root of this, which is going to be 5k. And then the square root of this, which is 3. One's a plus, one's a minus. Even if the variable's in the second one, don't freak out, you can still handle that. think about the square root of this one, which is 1 and 1. The square root of this one, which is 3b. 3b, too bad it isn't 2b, or not to be. One's positive, one's negative. So that's how those factor. And your homework is a worksheet, which I just did like 8 of your homework problems. So please make sure that you copy those on there so you get those answers correct. I have full confidence you're going to do well. Feel free to back this up and watch it over again, or contact me if you need help as well. Good luck, guys.